sideways on the 15-second. And yeah, it's been good.
Yeah. So I'll start by briefly explaining this one more time. The first original way that we looked at it was like this. We notice that this is the 200% right here, that red line, and it led all the way back to this line, which is the 100%. And when we go from a W to an M, or sorry, when we play out a W, sorry, it's typical that it goes from the 188-200 back to the 100. You know, we can see that on a regular horizontal fib scale, getting to that 200, it goes back to the 100, right? That's why it's such a phenomenal thing, is because when I pulled open the settings, I could see that just like in many other cases, the 200 led to the 100, which is a phenomenal discovery that I'm very pleased with. But then we have this movement here, where now it's changed from the high, and this is the 200, where this is now the 100 with absolute precision. It managed to get from exactly the red line exactly down to that blue one. And it managed to exactly produce the move that it did before, which we were looking at. A little bit less than it, sure, whatever. But I mean, it's effectively made this triangle and spiked out the bottom of it. So far, hasn't really finished the rest of it yet, but that's what it did earlier, and so far it's doing the same sort of thing. But the one absolute precision that I can see right now is the fact that it's went from the 200 to 100, and it hasn't spent a moment doing anything but traversing from the 200 to the 100, and this move here to this move to this move is exactly following the guidelines from a 200 to 100, from a 200 to 100. Is it going to do it again? You know, because could it mean that is an interesting perspective, but I'm like, well, what if we get the same distance across the top we had on the bottom? It could be possible. Something to consider an N wave. Now, of course, we did hit the B point. We are coming back to test the triangle. Absolutely beautiful movement. Another thing that I really admire about it as well is you know, in this shape that we have right here. Um, oh, I just popped that on there, and I can see the blue did come up to hit the orange at the
Yep,
same
it did.
time.
Yep.
Same time that it came to hit the triangle too. Pretty relevant. Ultimately creating an S wave. Right back to the equilibrium. You know, something that's already done in this one time.
That's the deal with looking at the 1 minute RSI. When you see there's such a difference, a space between where the 15 and the 1 minute is, when the 1 minute comes down to touch the green line, and it's also the extreme on the 15-second RSI, you can take it up until it
Orange.
meets the 15. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you take some of it off. You don't want to dump the whole thing, but yeah.
Oh, of course, of course, of course. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I took one off at the not there, but at the it was close to it, the B point.
Ah, yes.
It
See
was
that.
pissed off because it retraced 61%, right, before it hit the B point and went up.
Right, right. And I'm interested in that too because I'm like, for next time when it makes an M and the M projects down to like a decent level, and then the W is like here, and it's like not even at the 127 by the time it's hitting the B point or something like that. It has a lot more potential to actually develop just like the first M did, and we might get to the same kind of fib set that we had going on this move here. 188,
We're,
200.
yeah, but we're still under the 15 here. It hasn't
Oh, it
pushed
did get to
past
the
that.
188.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still
Kind
into
of
the
jumping on the
15.
wall now. Yeah.
And same with the tip of the triangle too, and it's appropriate, I think. Yeah, that's fine. But what's interesting about this as well is this B point and this B point both came off of 188s, and they both played out back to each other. And I'm like, okay, um, this zone that we used here could find very similar to the one that we have down here.
And the low of this morning was a 188 too, right?
Yeah. The funny thing is we all know that it ends with one of them failing.
Yeah, we do.
That's the thing. The more we see of it, the more obvious it makes, the more skeptical we should be of it, honestly. The same thing with 61s, they just saw one work. I'm like, well, next one's dangerous now. Because you best believe people will be thinking that it's gonna do it forever now. It's like, oh wow, look at how well it responded for those other people that took the 61. I better take the 61 from now on. It's like it's like
Join the 61 club. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Wasn't working so well yesterday.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, they got new people today. They don't even know the difference. Because they don't communicate with each other. So it's like they can fall for the same problems over and over again. But then when they stop falling for it, they have to think of something else to put out there, something else to like bait them with, basically. Which is
New gladiators in the ring, and they
yeah.
get eaten by the tigers.
It is
Oh,
very much like that. Yeah, I can't stop thinking about how it went from the 200 to the 100. I'm like, that's literally what we do on the fibs all the time. We go from the 188 200 down to the 100, which is the B point. And it did that twice on something that doesn't look anything like anything that comes from the 188 200 to the 100. I can't tell you like that is not anything like a 188 to a 100 that I've ever seen. Like it didn't double in half. Like how on earth is getting from this point to this point, considering somewhere along this, it is considered that it has doubled and halved it. And yet, how is this half of anything? It's not. I'm just, I can't believe how precise it is, to be honest. It's very, very strange. Very, very strange. Yeah, today's a really good day. Surprising it really hasn't it hasn't done anything too big really, but it's been pretty much an S wave. And it's like, is this one of the ways that we're going to be able to do an S wave in the future? And it goes through this whole process of making the two triangles and spiking out of the bottom of them, and it's like, well, it just ends up in the middle like any other S wave. It's got just as much on top as it does on the bottom, and it ends up right in the middle, right where it started. What's the difference? Got the same components. It's three moves, you know. We start like this. We go basically down, we go up, we go down. Ends up right back where it started. I mean, S-wave components are all there in a very rudimentary way, but it is true. I mean, we we are right where we started, and the whole thing means it doesn't go anywhere, and that's the irony of it. But it does it in a very particular way. Of course, we've seen like the S-wave at the tip of the sketch at the bottom there. That's what can happen. It can do it that way. It doesn't have to do this uh, mess of a triangle and lead into another one with all these big spikes and you know all of the attacks on people's positions, you could say. You know, it's not as seamless as it could be, to say the least. And I just mark it down in my mind as like, okay, well, this is one way that we can do an S wave, and it's a hell of a way to do an S wave. But everything about it is really, the expectations of an S wave are correct. Like, if you expect it to be everything that an S wave is at its best, you're doing pretty good. And I mean, your expectations don't really build much anticipation at all because it's really not a good long-term pattern at all. If it ends up right back where it started, it means anything that it does do is essentially going to be taken back. It doesn't matter if you were in the upwards bit or the downwards bit, it ends up right back where it started. So if you shorted it at the beginning or went long at the beginning, if you've held it till now, it's flat. And that's the irony. So for the long-term people, unless they're going to be actively managing it, it's just a terrible, like, boring time, right? Like, so, and a lot of the stocks will be even worse at doing this than the market is. So that's that's the interesting. Some of them might be better, but it's um it's a way to consolidate if you think about it. Because is it not confined to this level through the entire experience? Like if it starts and ends at the same spot, and every other move basically seems to either begin or end at this level, how is it not confined to this level? You know, especially when we can only make the same distance away from it on average. It seems to be quite even, symmetrical. And then I'm like, okay, okay, okay. We definitely know it has a relationship with this level then. And it's not getting away from it until we break a trend that can develop us into a new one that gets away. But until then, we're confined within pretty much another triangle until it's over. We're at the 61, which is a controversial level. If you think about how it's treated the people that caught it the first time round, it's come back and made it really uncomfortable for them. If many people did catch it and they can see a bunch of stops are available right at the 61 again, that could look like liquidity could be provided there. So we have to be careful with that. Again, we're at the blue line too. And where it decided to come up to wasn't only just the triangle, but the white line that was the middle of the entire channel set, which could be viewed as a middle point, a medium point. You know, I can't help but think if the most extreme moves of the day and their entries are presented, by this. You know, the one thing that we haven't done yet is this one. Testing that blue bar. I'm thinking about that. Let me think here. What did we do here? We took this range. Which was this range. More. Just a bit more. Like it did this much more. Where it's like it could be placed from here. But I mean, either way, I find that the confinement area on the bottom was very, very particular. And I'm curious about that. That was the original. Yeah, undeniably, I think that this one gets the most accurate medium level. And now I think the move that it's done out of the bottom of the triangle is actually the same size. And I can't help but notice now too that what we're doing might have a tad similarity to what we did here. Because it's the first and the fifth wave. 1, 2, 5. Volume starts to change. And I kind of wanted to take a look at this one. So close to that one I was looking at originally now too. Very close, but it's definitely wicks and spikes. Obviously, if you're already in, you don't have to be buying higher than where you bought in. The fifth wave is getting some action back into the node here. Everyone that bought beneath that might get a little bit of a secondary low. We have to watch out for that. There's a new trend too, you know, up here. Not bad. So was it this? No, it definitely made that more than that distance. So of course there is some B points in here as well. We can go ahead and take a look at this one. It looks like it's going to have the fibs that everybody's going to be interested in here, and absolutely okay. The 188-200 first response. The B point above. The 61's I mean, what did we really get off of that? We got a fourth wave. And I suppose, when we have an H and it comes down and we do another one, and we can make it look like this. It's not pretty, but it is the case that there is 5 waves, and the first wave is somewhat similar to the fifth now. Actually, it is the same basically. Splitting hairs with it, but it's basically the same. And it's a strange version of what we did here. More drawn out, of course. But it will never end unless we break these lines, and getting to them is the first step in breaking them. And if there's plenty of space to get to them, then there's plenty of movement that we can do until then, and plenty of time to change momentum. And obviously there is some other trends as well. Whoops, here. but they're easily readjusted. This trend is easily readjusted. Like I said, it came down into that like secondary low environment, making it difficult, changing the momentum. But the negative, it totally had a negative response to that middle level as well. So like that orange line we were talking about there too, that definitely had a negative response. That's the 15-minute RSI, and the 1-minute RSI is the blue line. So the short-term momentum ran into the long-term momentum as the short-term movement ran into the triangle and the red yellow line again. And I mean, you know how much the red yellow line can have a negative response before it actually breaks. And look at the party it's having with it this time. It's definitely associated with that line. A lot of moves begin and end at that line. A lot of consolidations are held back by that level. And we did one of those patterns where it's quite strange. I don't particularly like this pattern, but it does look like this, which is strange. And I see that sometimes when I make inverse head and shoulders to head and shoulders, and I'll show that as a separate pattern, which is kind of a rough pattern. Usually it's more like this, and creates a left shoulder head, right shoulder, left shoulder head, right shoulder. Same pattern in reverse, but it's all part of the same move. And I mean, like, it does that. As much as it's just like not a pattern on Google, and everything, it is something that the market is capable of doing. So I recognize it as a pattern. And I call it a head and shoulders all in one because it's an all in one version of a head and shoulders. Like we could get an M and a W all in one, where it's like, oh, everybody, I'm making an M and it's a W. I'm like, well, that's crazy that it can do that because it's clearly a W that anybody looks at like that. But to anybody that looked at it here, it's an M. So it's like an all in one. Easy to understand. And we see this all the time, We saw this in the morning when it was like a trend like that. Made a move similar to either side. Of course, it's just a sketch, but that's the idea with it. But while the time that it's doing this area, it's definitely in a consolidation. My point is that it goes across this point 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 times it hits that same level. And you could say it hits that same level 5 times across here too, right? So I'm like, and of course the whole thing could be upside down, and still everything is the same. 5 times it will hit across those same levels, and it is consolidating while it's doing it. And then I just like look at this thing and I'm like, well, yeah, clearly we're doing something there, and we've got a move where we weren't consolidating, and it effectively came into this environment where I'm like, this 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 whole area that we had down here, which was the channel area, is it's showing a lot of characteristics. Let's just put it that way. It's spent that same amount of time roughly. Let's take a look at the whole thing. How much time did the whole thing take? And since our began, where are we? We're done then, according to this, right? So at the end of the day, it's something that we can expect change if the time is up on the last thing that is so similar to what we're doing now. Then we could expect that a new thing may be interested in beginning, as it did last time. Ironically, because there's only two, we might make a third version of this, and it could be smaller, and that's not uncommon. I can't help but notice that the entire day's movement does have a giant move like this and a giant move like this. Like the first move is somewhat similar to the second move, and you can see that there's some sort of similarity to the first one there too. So like they're kind of advancing very, very slowly, somewhat similar to what we saw it happened in here. Or is it not? Like at the end of the day, is it not true that this trend began here as well by showing us that it decided to make this same kind of move and then it decided to carry on? The only thing that it decided to do was come back to test the fourth because it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then what happened? Didn't even manage to come past the fourth wave. Interestingly enough, just like um, the Amazon earnings. Now I think it did it again up here, where essentially it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Amazon.
Something on, oh, on Amazon. Okay.
So Amazon just finally got to their trend. This could be a big deal. It's a major uptrend. This major uptrend right here on Amazon managed to break.
Oh, I emailed this morning, Lilu, and I said I wouldn't be trading next week because I'm going to be away on holidays. And they said, well, just let us know too when you come back when you're going to start trading, whatever. I said, okay, cool. Because if you have a PA account, if you're inactive for however many days, they want to know that you're not going to be active. So you just can't leave the scene for basically weeks on end and expect your PA accounts to be there.
Yep. Keep a active management approach. So in this chart, we've got a red zone and green zone that it's quite appropriate, right? Like we can see that it actually used the green zone quite a bit, absolute precision on the low. The amount of volume that it's put past this point is incredibly minimal, and I can't help but notice that 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 has amounted to 1, 2, and 3 consecutive lows, which puts a lot of influence, or not influence, but emphasis.
Off the hour, big candle here too.
Top of the hour? Now let's take a
Yeah,
look at the hourly.
yeah.
Jeez, has it ever been here for hours? This is it's quite something. Many B points remain untested above.
On the RSI and the hourly, we're basically right in the middle.
Yeah, everything is, yeah. Even the MACD, it looks like it's high, but it's really not. It's at the 0 level.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Like it's high, but it's not if you look at the number.
Seems like they want to be in the middle for the end of the week, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a safe place to have the weekend, I think. There might be
And there's been
something.
lots of trading all week. I mean, we've had some amazing freaking movements, right? All week.
Yeah, maybe they're bracing for something to happen over the weekend, perhaps. It's a defensive play though, not running into the.
There's still two major announcements next week. Apple, I think, is on Wednesday or Thursday, and I think the Fed rate decision comes out on Wednesday or Thursday, one of those 2 days too.
Yeah, so
That's huge too, right?
putting a lot of investments in before such a large volatility increase is
Like they're going to hold the rates, or are they going to raise them, or what's going to go on, right? So
yeah, that'll be a day of volatility for sure.
I think it'll give you a better movement than the Apple announcement.
Is Apple the last one though? Let's take a look.
Yep. Yep. I'm pretty sure.
See,
Yeah, it says on my thing here on 6 days to earnings for Apple. So it must be what, Thursday?
that's the
The
second.
Fed is, yeah, November 1st, I think, which is Wednesday.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's happening at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So
Oh, interesting. Yeah, Apple. is on the 2nd of November, and I know Nvidia is later in the month at the 21st, and they're kind of disassociated with the other moves, which is good. But it does raise a question of, all of these companies that are releasing on Monday, like a lot of the exposure will have to be made over the weekend. If yeah, a lot of these companies,
A lot of Dow companies, right?
yeah, there's a lot of after hours.
Banks and yeah.
I don't see a lot of them actually reporting in the morning. They're all like after hours on Monday too, so that's good. Interest and so on. Oh, that Wolf Speed is doing it on Monday. We're almost at the 94% retracement on this green zone here, basically. Retesting the first original trend. And you want to know what this reminds me of? This trend right here reminds me of the trend that we have on this chart, hourly. How it cut through so many times like this. Yeah, paste it. I think it's because it's 4K pixels. This one. The extreme of that green zone. And I'm interested in this green zone because it's basically the one that we or earlier in the day, and it had a spike out of both sides. Two spikes, as a matter of fact. Those spikes you might see on the other side of 261 is roughly the same distance as the first spike away. I'm curious if they're going to make the effort to test the green zone same as they did the red. A blue line does get drawn here. This is a consideration. Seen that move times are. It would be a little bit closer to the 127 to make this the same distance.
Kind of hitting a B point down there, where we're at right now.
Oh, the big one. Yeah, I have that one on this chart here. Basically, this B point right here, it applies with the 261, everything being bought back up to that 261 right now. We'll see on the other chart, everything was bought back up as well. This is a So yeah, this trend could. Until we break that trend, it is true that we have a downtrend. Like I said, first thing we have to do is get space filled in to get to it, so that we can break it. Then we could either run to it or chop to it to fill that space in. But continued an expansion as well. Every single move that we made today has been following a expansion, which, I mean, it puts a lot of emphasis on this low right here. Potentially even that one. Could look like the 261 coming back to test the 188-200 from the underside. Didn't quite meet this end though. That was from the morning. I think we're going for the break of the top line ultimately. So this is the range that was most recently made. You know, it actually I started it. I just dragged it back to show that it was being used in other places. Looking at what it did when it was below this area in the past, it managed to run into it pretty significantly just to test it from the underside. And when we were running very significantly, it managed to produce a move that we're pretty familiar with today, where it made that effort at extending past an S wave as much as it did to begin with, like that pattern right there. And then we moved up on this W and never managed to grab its B point until now. So it is true that major B point has been cleared, and that leaves good to go. Has pretty much filled every single B points that matter. Now it's left with B points all the way across the highs. Like, it's done a really bad job at filling these ones. And you know, the ones that it was good at filling were up in the red zone, but as soon as it started to get involved with anything below the red zone, all of a sudden it leaves all these open B points.
One minute hit the 15 there.
Yeah, that's quite interesting when it does that there, because when we ran into the 15 with the orange line with the 1 minute, it also ran like it was in the process of running into test its fibs from the underside. I think this blue line also that I drew it on the other chart played a role in this test, like a falling wedge that effectively faked out of the bottom.
Coming down, John. If you look at the 1 minute RSI hitting the 15, every time it's sort of intersected with it, you were to take that short, and you know it was in the right ballpark, and you would have been all right.
Let's take a look. Now it's starting to get real dangerous though, because the 15's starting to get real low.
Yeah, and when they're really close to each other, just stay away from it. I do. Just wait. I took the initial thing down here at the bottom. I took it out up for like um, 20 points or whatever it was, but 25 points or whatever, and I just get out of it.
Yeah.
I'm just quickly scalping some of these, especially after it hit that B point down there. Because I really only had it coming off a 227. I don't normally take any 227s, but it was pretty extreme on the 15-second RSI. But when the 1 minute gets on top of the 15, that's a different show.
Yeah, I think that's about to happen. Maybe in a little bit more chop, but that's okay.
Yep, I mean they're pretty close to each other.
Yeah, it's harder for the orange line to really keep going down. I mean, it can try and touch the green, but it's honestly difficult for it to do that. But I remember seeing this, earlier actually when it did a different test. It kind of faked out beneath it and then stepped on it after. We did that kind of here.
Yep.
Yeah, and in here it went beneath it, and then the next move was to grind at it, and then it tried to step on top of it. By the time we were doing that, we were in the red zone.
Also had that rising wedge there. Came off of 161. Third
Yeah,
time today.
if it makes a spike uh, through the red yellow line, that could stretch this up and give it need to test it from the other side. So that's something we could look for in the future. That orange line testing the green would be ideal. At the end of the day, the blue, uh, I would say it's in the next 10 minutes it should be on top of the maybe 15. It should be on top of the, and I would like to think that it's impossible for it to do it unless it breaks the yellow line. So this line really starts to become, at
This
risk
looks
of
good, with the spike and
breaking.
stuff. I mean, did go down to 261, so, but, one's still not on top, so we'll see.
Yeah.
It's just like a inflection point here. I mean, it has to get on top.
Yeah, I'm curious. Well, I'm just gonna see what it looks like now and take a picture of it, and we'll see what it looks like after it breaks. I'm intrigued how the 15-second RSI is still holding on top of the yellow line.
It's a struggle there, eh?
Yeah, but it looks like it's building on it though. Like
Yeah,
with all that downwards movement that it's had in there, it's still on top of the yellow line. Like,
yeah.
because it wasn't to begin with, right? Like here
No,
it was below, and like by here it's continued to go down, but the yellow line isn't going down, and the blue line sure isn't going down through this negative pullback. But in this case, on the 1 minute, it is
I want to see some divergence there
kind
too
of
on the
interesting.
15 second, right?
Yeah, which I mean, debatably it is, unless it rips down right now, which it doesn't seem to be moving too much. Like it's still pretty close to the yellow line. Like it's trying to sneak a divergence in there. I mean, the 1 minute certainly diverged. Like if you look at the blue line, it's made a low here, and it's made a lower low, whereas through at the same time, we've been building on momentum, making higher highs and higher lows, while the price has been making, oops,
On the 15 second, the price is about the same on the bottom, but we have a divergence where bullish, where it's the RSI is starting to lift off. See,
yeah, yeah, they could get a pretty
trying to
big
get us
order
on a
in.
secondary low. Now it's going to take off.
Yeah,
Yeah, for a couple points, anyways. So that's what I look for when I'm looking at the 15 second there.
should continue, but that's like that. I think that's like a trend break and retest. Like basically, right now, it's like right in that tiny area down there. It's just breaking and retesting the small short-term trend that's in there, kind of thing. But one thing that is definitely clear is the momentum is going the opposite direction as the price, and we haven't really seen that anywhere else. So it's really, oh,
Yeah.
and I'm interested in all the green dash lines up here. Like all of those levels are, really untested. Like we're still on a third low in comparison to these other two big ones. Like the amount of time that we've spent making this low versus the amount of time that we've spent making this one's even larger. And that's fine because the expansion of the triangle it's supposed to get larger. It starts coiled up and then it gets even wider and wider moves. And it takes longer to get to those moves as it
Wow, look at that. The
expands.
1 minute's on top of the 15.
Let's take a look. Here.
See?
Yeah, and
First time it's done that in a while.
the
Like
15
that.
second is reaching.
Yeah. There we go. We just witnessed a change.
Yep.
say it won't come back down and dick us around again. But
Yeah, we got to be careful with this level right there. I mean, it's not like a target by any means, but it's certainly not safe to drag stops above it. Because it could be like a little right shoulder. Like this is kind of like a,
we're still going down until we cross that trend line though too.
well, yeah, it could take time though. It could just go sideways into it and break up. Because what it could do is, it could forget the right shoulder. Like we saw that somewhere else today. I think it might try to do that, just like a little crappy squiggle for the right shoulder, and it doesn't really go down much at all. We shall see. It's at the tip of the falling wedge too. So I mean, like as much of as this really never got a chance to be a falling wedge, um, the angles have, or the trends, sorry, have angled themselves into a convergence that basically tells us that uh, they can, they're both being put to the test. It's like at this time, the green zone, if it chooses to continue being used, it will be without these trends. So it's like that's huge. I was like, okay then. So it's a big ultimatum, and I'm like, well, or else it has to start dropping at the rate of those trends right now, and that's the ultimatum. And I mean, like, well, that might be a little hard for it to do because it's already dropped so much, and it is a green zone. So I mean, bullish patterns do stand a better chance. Like I was saying in here as well, there was something that was trying to form in the red zone, and it wasn't particularly like I mean, it became obvious that if it didn't work, it would be because it was in the red zone. Just like if you see a bearish pattern down here, a bearish pattern in the green zone, it's supposed to be a bearish reversal pattern capable of reversing uptrends back down. I mean, it's very important that we understand reversal patterns reverse existing trends, continuation patterns continue trends. And if you find a reversal pattern, like let's say for instance, we found head and shoulders at the high and it came all the way back down and reversed this whole trend. If you find that same pattern at the bottom, it is nowhere near as powerful as the one that can reverse the trend. But the one that's positioned at the bottom, it's not a continuation pattern, right? And not to say that it hasn't in the past. Like, of course, there's been head and shoulders that are capable of continuing the trend and so on, but um, they're not designed to, really, in every situation, I could say.
Cool how that sort of materialized.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely 100%. The right shoulder was small and weak, and that's good. Not many people chased it because they were all waiting for it to be just as low as the left, and I'm like, well, no, not good, because they want everyone out of the way, right? That's my impression right now, at least. Because everyone will likely become sellers before the proper targets. They'll impede its ability from being able to get to the red zone, um, if they don't understand where the red zone is, because many charts will look just like this. And just looking at a chart like this, it doesn't really tell you exactly where a target would be if you don't know what to target, right? So it's like what they'll do is they'll buy in and then they'll look at the profit and loss, and the profit and loss will determine whether or not they sell. And I'm against that, to be honest. I think that the profit and loss can never give you a reason to sell. It's all about the technical level that determines whether or not it's going to continue profiting or not, because the market doesn't know how much everybody's up. It just knows what the appropriate level to reverse is. But in this case, we can see everybody that was part of that blast was just retraced into the retest, and still more green zone continues to be used. And a node is being grown. Well, like we have this node growing on top of this current level that we're at. This is the left shoulder level. And with as many 3 drives as we've been seeing lately, it's very good to be aware of the potential for them. One thing I do see about this green zone is that it does have, as a matter of fact, a 261. related to this 100% up here, which is intriguing because everything that we've done this far inside of this area has amounted to returning back to the 261, where in the event that we can manage to break the trend that got us here from the 261 or green zone, it could be directly correlated with the untested B points above, as it's become the case now that it is impossible for us to ever get to this target without breaking the entire trend. So like that's one way to look at it. This whole thing's got to go forever getting to any of these B points again. I mean, we can hit these ones here, sure, yeah. But I mean, this one, it's physically impossible to get there unless we end the whole thing, you know? And now it's gotten to the case where we have to not only end it, but do more than double what we did on the bottom out of the other side to make this happen. And I mean, by the end of it all, is it okay for it to just look like it used the range? I mean, that's what it was designed for originally. And to be honest, sometimes it's better than the other times at going from one side to the next. But one thing that we can see about this range, it's a matter of fact, is that they're so precise about this range that they've made it equal on both sides. And when I see that we've popped out of the top today, I can't help but think, oh geez, what was the last thing that we did out of the bottom? And was it at all similar what we just did right now? Or anything of the sort? And what could it mean to get back to the red zone without a spike out of the bottom? You know, because that's that's a very intriguing one as well. It would be a very big change. And I'm just curious about this movement right here and the movement that we just did right there. You know, since we ended the last trend, right? Oh shoot, I remembered about the other chart where we basically had a fib um, this one. Looking for, let me just see what I posted. It was the 8 cap. Oh yeah. NDQ one. Sorry, I was spacing out there for a second. Looking for this. So this medium line that we're using here is effectively what we're on right now, where we're at right now. I wanted to take a look at that originally. This trend could be readjusted, of course. But I'm half tempted to leave it there, you know. I do think that this trend can still provide value because it was like a fake break and it's coming up again sooner than the new trend could be. So it offers more value. And if we get a change on that one, yes, we'll have to deal with the other one. And it's not far off. They're very close. But it creates a little bit of a smaller window. And I like that smaller window coming to an end so that we can reverse back to the 261 again. I'm just going to mark that 261 as well. Take these off.
really haven't changed in a downward sense because if you look at the 15-second, the thing went up to the peak of the 70 and came right back down. Because if we're in an uptrend, this thing's going to go past the 70 and keep going up
Well,
on
the
the 15-second RSI.
15-second RSI, it's still doing technically what it should be doing. It didn't really come down with the price on the secondary low. It's testing it from above, so it could step on it and shoot through this most recent high that we made. And it's difficult for a lot of individuals, but if you think from a perspective of somebody that can't buy enough and they're trying to make more people provide them a position, this is the kind of movement that's difficult for individuals, creates them into sellers, and the institution. Oh my goodness, I think they actually just hit this level again. That's
Well, you hit
huge.
the 15 and use it as resistance, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying the initial. And of course, it's got to form some sort of a W or something, right, to go up.
Yep. And I think that basically, like, this movement that we're seeing right now, it's heavy institutional movement, difficult for the individuals, and they're trying to push chasers out of the way. The chasers that there were on that last push will be maybe using half the size of their positions. At the end of the day, this medium level, it's everything's been bought back up above it. We came back to test that medium level at the beginning of the day, and this was the one that goes back like months and months and months and months and months. And I think it's finally the last time that we're going to be associated with it. So this is like the last environment, the last consolidation um, before the weekend's chop be so sideways that time will make this so far away that it becomes unrealistic to get back to. Because it's already on top of unrealistic that it's gotten back to it, so it's very unlikely that it will continue to try and use it. And I can't help but notice the distance out of the bottom and the top of the trend, or the green zone and red zone, really trying to show itself now. But if I go to like the 15-minute here, it might look a little crazy for a second, but the idea is just to take in exactly how long I've been using this blue bar for. Like it comes all like it's a short-term chart, not intended for long-term view, but you can see how long it's been in play for. Too long, I think. And a weekend is kryptonite to this thing because, like I say, what's it going to look like by tomorrow if we're there? Well, we're going to have to keep dropping at the rate that we've been at to get to it. But when you put 2 days in the mix, that could mean it's a little bit difficult, especially demanding that it would continue to do that at the extreme. Now, of course, there could be something of an event over the weekend, so that's another thing. Like multiple wars going on in the world. Like lot a lot that could happen, fortunately.
So again, this is similar type of situation that we had this morning, where we have a consolidation for a bit, and before it goes up, you're going to see a major spike on the bottom before it goes up. Yeah.
Maybe the last one hasn't been doing it usually. Like remember, it's like the like when they show it all day that every consolidation has a spike, has a spike, has a spike. Then the last one that's the juiciest doesn't even have a spike.
Yeah, that would suck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that was a different day. They did that, and I was like, well, it was honestly the day that they started doing that spike out of the bottom, like really predominantly, and it did it a few times, and returned back to the middle, and other times it would it would fake out here, but then ultimately it all ended up making new lows. And then sometimes it would just spike right back to the middle and then continue going down without this upper part at all. So I was like, okay, that's tough. The two middle lines working together here is very, very intriguing. I think that this is going to lead to the break of this major downtrend here. Make it red yellow. one up here. Now it's interesting what I wrote about it. All of the lines are likely to break after the consolidation, but time is important. It gets us closer to the red yellow line and farther from the blue bar, because you know what gets us farther away is time plus movement. But if you don't have movement and we just have time, it's working in favor of the price moving away from the blue bar and into the breaks of the red yellow lines. As time goes on, these levels will all be relinquished and we will start gradually moving away from the blue bar.
5 minute, John, 5 minute RSI, the 5 minute still under the 15.
Let's take a look at that. Yeah, that's low though too, so getting on top of it could really, I mean, what we could be doing is just giving it a little knock like we did there before. And it kind of seems to try and do that every time it gets off the ground there. It'll give it a little bit of a tough time. This is a tough time in here when it does that. Sideways, yet every single high is higher and every single low is higher. And then anybody that buys as it's running out, so if anybody's late, they have to find value in when it's doing this. And of course, when it did that, there was 3 consecutive lows. We can see that it returned back to the first of the 3. If, roughly 15 points, maybe 20 points, could be captured and made safe to continue holding the remainder of the position with a stop at the extreme. What other way can one have the best price, endure the pullbacks, and remain in for any continuation without being stopped out on the retest? So it's like when you think of it that way, it's like, well, there's only limited amounts of areas where you can expose yourself to these moves, and you have to manage it in a particular way to make it safe. So it starts to become an understanding that it has to be done a certain way. And being exposed long is probably one of the hardest things to do if you're not managing it right, but it is most valuable. Like every single one of the lines I expect to break. And it's like all of these charts, they say the same thing, you know? This distance here even suspiciously particular. The distance that we chose to make here. Why so particular? Different range, but it's still very particular. Pick a chart, and they're all different in their own way, but I can use them with absolute precision in each way, slightly different. Every single one is a red zone and green zone. In this case, this one, this one's not too old either. Actually, I just started it, and it's yeah, I think it's gonna get above every single one of them soon. And like, what could it mean to be done with this? That's another major question. To be done.
Once we start on the 15-second RSI, once we start, going through the 70 and it still keeps going up, then yeah, that's a different sign.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get that. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the
Oh
blue
yeah,
line to get
I
up to
agree.
the red. And I want to see like things like the 5 minute start to cross up and stuff like that. Um, starting to really start to like cross each other over, and the blue lines start to stretch up towards the red. Like the daily, I want to see that on the daily too. So there's a lot of value to capturing a position and keeping it through the overnight session. as difficult as it's been throughout the entire day to remain long, it's clear that there is value in the long term in it reversing. And it's like, let's say for instance, the weekend counts towards more movement sideways for the momentum. That will affect the daily positively. Like it will continue to develop momentum in favor of the reversal and only look more like a crossover. So I'm interested. But for the end of the day today, I wonder if some sort of centralization could be on the table. Of course, grinding the green zone in this case, and it's also the 261. The one that we were talking about earlier, the one that's related to the highest untested B point, and essentially we've been trading back towards it for the most part of this consolidation. I have it marked on this one as a yellow dash line. And as it currently sits, I'm curious to see roughly where the 61 would be of this entire move, what it corresponds with the B point. So I find it very similar to what we managed to do in the morning. The kind of push that starts at this major retracement, the next push that we see may only have half of that, 41% retracement perhaps. So I'm very, very, very curious to see if we can manage to produce something incredibly similar to this, except not pull back all the way to the baseline, but rather have more of an advancement before being able to continue. And I think that getting out of this fib, pitchfork is going to be great. It is coming up to the amount of time that is appropriate. You know, like time is up, I would say. Time is up, and I'm like, well, you know what we have time for? Is the move that came after the last consolidation. The move that only seemingly generates this movement. Wouldn't it be something to get it in reverse, though? Because what would this move here get us to if we did it up? Would it get us to here? It would be shy. Might get us to here. And I'm like, well, that is the size of our gap. Is the size of our move. And this is the size of our consolidation, roughly. The amount of node that we're making right now is incredibly similar to what you could assume could be created in a consolidation of this caliber or this one. Node. Similar. Anyways, that's one thing that I look at for is find a clarity in the amount of consolidation it makes and what's the result of that consolidation if not to make a move of this size every other time that it's ever made it. So what would that move look like and where could it be appropriate? Well, after all, each time that we've ever made that move, is it not true that it was off of the red zone? What could the green zone do? Is it going to be down again? Perhaps, but at the end of the day, it is considerably in a different spot than it was both of the other times. And the one thing that we do have here is space between the price and the red yellow line. which gives us more room to use the node essentially. And then I question one thing, why end it there? Is it not true that it was capable the first time of going down to this point and then coming all the way back up to this? And what would that look like in the event? Just an idea. What would that look like? Okay, do you remember what this was like? It had a consolidation and a spike down, then a consolidation like above it, like that. So it chose to do that move, right? So remember that for a second here. And let's think about this upside down for a second. Just for a second. If it went like this and then came up a little bit and then down a lot,
Green explosion.
well, I was just thinking that it's remarkably similar in reverse. You know, because the components are the same in the sense that it started with a small consolidation and then it made a move out of the bottom of it, and it did that out of the top, but it was a small move, and you could tell that that was the small move because right after that small move it made the big move, just like it did here, the big move. And then when it made that big move, it went into a consolidation on the other side of the original one, on the other side of the original one, and it's a mathematical fact that that's the case. So I'm like, that's interesting. You know, why is it the case that it started with a consolidation, went down a bit, and then came up above it and did a consolidation here? Now we've managed to start this move, come all the way up a little bit, down a lot, and do a consolidation on the other side of the original one. And that's the exact same component structure as what we have here. Small consolidation, check mark. The small pop is also check mark. Small pop, it was in the other direction, but that's good to go. And then we did the big move, which is good to go. No? And then after the big move, you can see that this is the original consolidation, and it did it on the other side. This is the original consolidation, and it did it on the other side of the small original move. So every single thing that happened in the original one is going on right now on a bigger picture. And what happens when we do this? We go like that. You know, like it's effectively expanding, which is interesting. I'm thinking about this still very much so, but it has showed us this is an incredible pattern of the day. It's not incredibly uncommon either, but to the past couple weeks. So if it is making something so similar so often, um, yeah, it bothers me not to find it, right? So we have to find it. At the end of the day, if the consolidations are happening in positions that are related to each other and they produce the same kind of movements, you know, like they generate this kind of movement, uh, you know, it's something really important to look at. Even when we can see that it came from this side, you know, completely disregarding the fact that it is something that we look at all the time, you know, and this is also something, but it's completely different. We have the same components though. Like it starts out and it puts this spike here and just does this one here. I'm like, wow, you know, completely the same components, you know, not anything different than what we're used to, but it is trying to follow a general rule, you know, where the consolidations seem to be separated pretty neatly from the
Here too, right now.
this one, yeah, almost like I can drag this one down almost.
Yep.
And that spike out of the bottom of this triangle, what that would look like would be the blue bar, the bottom, the very extreme bar if it did decide it. So what's ironic about that is the first triangle of the day responded to the top of the blue bar. The last triangle, maybe the bottom, because it's effectively the same environment, same triangle. Ultimately, I think that the triangle will show that two triangles not able to break resistance is very unlikely. This last triangle's resistance is still intact, and it was not even on both sides. Whereas the first triangle of the day showed us how much it cared about being even. This one, never. That's my point. And I'm like, well, this one managed to do this move, but it didn't do the other one. I want to take a look at that. Get a rough idea of what that could look like. But let's take a look here. This movement that we've made, every single time that it has made this gyration down, this gyration down, this gyration down, it's been a trend that's broken with value every time. So I'm curious about that. Every other trend just sucks. But when it makes this move, ironically, it's the only time that it really matters. It did get back to the triangle as well. Which I'm like, why? So soon? I mean, you want to know what that looks like to me? It looks like this. Like this little projected area that we were looking at before, because it was it came from here. And it just chose to literally use that amount of movement to get back to the triangle again. I mean, that's what it was good for originally. If it is truly doing this triangle again, I mean, it's doing a good job at showing us. That's for sure. So what about the other side? The other side hasn't been tested on two triangles now. We're gonna do that twice in a row. It's just a bit much. And this one was very precise about retesting, but it tested once. So what could it mean to test more than once? What a change, one could say. Because this one really only tested once too. And you could almost say, where'd that come from? But these smaller ranges that we're in right now, like they have been areas that were appropriate for wicks and spikes. So when we were creating this amount of consolidation before, this amount of spikage on either side of the triangle could basically be seen. And until now, the only spike that it was interested in making was the one that provided the most kind of juiciness. And it made that one. It was a little crappy at doing it. It didn't even make the full thing. But, break. But it's good to observe if it didn't make the full thing. It's good to understand the facts, because then you have a more concrete understanding of the environment. And the change of the hour again is coming up. Check out Amazon real quick. Wow. Amazon just got back to their B point. And they did it on a 5-wave move, which could suggest trying to attack the downtrend on them.
5 minutes still under it on the RSI.
On the 5 minute, you say?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's all just in the process of changing. Like it's doing one of these things right here. Like I think it's doing one of these. Just it's like tested it and like during that period it's like smashed it a couple times and then finally it'll try and make it above it. Like I think that the point I just circled is very similar to the point that's down here, where it smashed it a couple times and it was very difficult for it. Effectively, this has been traversing its way upwards while the price has been doing anything but that. And I think that that's bullish. We've been like conquering the orange line and
Yeah,
everything.
so even on the 15 second, just on the smaller scale, but yeah.
Yeah, the 15-second came back down to hit the green line, but made an even lower low before coming up. I noticed that too. That's interesting.
This was an end of volume play too, right?
Yep,
This low
yep,
here.
yep. Well, and it's also I do give a lot of credit to that medium bar being like this is like the final movement, I think. Like the way that it was treated at the beginning of the day was very precise from both sides. And like they even did it when they touched it on the inside, it was like this. And I'm like I love to see that. That's really really good. And then to come all the way back like that, I'm like, okay, well now they're just making it very clear that is the final touches, I think. Because like let's look at Facebook for a second. Because is it not true that they were doing the same kind of thing with this bar? And like what did it do when it was done? It was like smash, smash. It was like it really wanted to show us that it was the level. And it was like everybody look, it's hitting it so many times, hitting it so many times. And then it hit it here and look, it came right back down and sniped it right there too. And then it came up and responded to it here and then the other side and then again and then it was done. And I think we're going to get that overnight weekend. It's going to be like that on the Nasdaq. It's just going to ruin its ability to freaking come back to this again. And I'm like, without that, it might not be so good at coming down. That's the that's the idea because like this has been the talk of the town since it start well on the Nasdaq since oh since we started that channel. That channel actually was the beginning of it all, and it is very very it came in with a bang too. Like it was very much a very volatile environment. Like that's a huge move. Like the gray zone that we usually use is like the green and then the red and then the gray. It went past that and I put them on the other side too. And I was looking for it to happen on the other side because I was like, wow, if it can do it down here, it can do it up here. And it tried. Eventually it got to it. If you continue going along it, it did make that distance out the other side of that blue line and positions acquired from inside the blue line, we're able to get to that gray zone, which is the thing I really like about that. Change that. When I go back that much, it loads on too much stuff. I like to set it. The end of day push is very likely just to get us back into the middle. This is the change of the hour volatility too, so we got to be careful with that. We're creating what could look like the wick on the hourly. Like let's take a look at the hourly. The hourly itself easily I think is just going to be making a wick to try and come back and test the previous last candle and clearly see that there's a heavy expansion going on there. And every single time that it's expanded, it's managed to come back to the last high that it made in the process of expanding on either side. And what we're left with here now are these lows in here for the end of the day. They're all marked chart. And like I mentioned before, doing the same spike as we done out of every other one of the triangles gets us to the bottom of the blue bar. Yeah, the bottom of the blue bar is a pretty controversial level. Still have plenty of space between the trends, so it could do some sort of double bottom to try and shake out some more people. But the entirety of that move at the end of the day is subject to being a spike. Take a look at what happened with the momentum. We're still on top of the orange. Strange enough, to be honest. The 15 seconds certainly hit the green again there on the bottom of the blue bar. Looks like we're getting a positive response to the bottom of the blue bar. Watch out for a secondary low.
It's at 1 minute. It's a 15. It's just jacks up, but still putting the 15 down.
Well, I mean, like everything that we did there was a spike, just like it was supposed to be. I mean, these are pretty significant moves. Like it's trying to follow the rules so much so that I think it's trying to make sure that people are out of the way here.
Bottom of the 15-second too.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the other side of this triangle soon here. And really, I mean, if it takes what is that? 10 minutes, I mean, it'll have to break the red yellow line almost to be able to get that to happen. This move though, it does give me deja vu to that kind of spike move that we've been seeing at the end of the day. Or not at the end of the day, but just recently in general, where we have a consolidation with a spike out of the bottom. And this might not be, I mean, it's only 2 o'clock, right? So there could be another consolidation that sits on top of this one that might not spike out of the bottom. And I'm like, the B points that I'm going for up here are pretty close by, like underdeveloped. But it's giving me deja vu to the morning because we have like same distancing. Or not distancing, but expansion that we were seeing on another. I can't remember if it's on this chart or not. Like here, kind of motion again. Where I find it's very unlikely that it tries to make another expansion. You know, this is the final expansion to the downside from what I can see. And
Let's see where the 1 minute got on top of the 15 and just rode it actually down all day um, when the market was going down. But as soon as it hit the 15, it kind of jacked up, gave you a few points, and still continued to go down.
well, undeniably, we are actually spending the amount of time that we spent grinding under it on top of it. That that could
Yep,
actually
it
change
is.
things.
Yep,
Because I
another
mean,
portion play.
yeah, and it's like
Yeah,
the whole thing could be just like the amount of time that it takes to change something like the 15. It's like while that whole thing was going on, I mean, like the 15's not even feeling it really. 5 minute is though. 5 minutes starting to cross now. Like it's going to be very hard for those lines to come
yeah.
apart
Okay, yeah, I see a
again.
histogram there too. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But
Nice.
the
Okay.
histogram's first to go usually, and it's going.
Yep.
It's almost like it's hard to take back now. I'm like, how low would it have to go to make the histogram make a new low? I'm like, ridiculous. Too low. So it'll have a bullish divergence almost indefinitely to the trend break. I'm liking it. I'm liking the other side of the triangle there. And that means the trend break. Well, basically it means the B point too right there. Because I'm like, how do we get on top of the triangle without breaking the trend and getting the B points? It'll look like it's trying to smash into this gap, which yes, I mean, it could create a giant inverse head and shoulders out of this if it wanted to. You know, running into that gap and struggling for the retest, because if it runs into it and doesn't retest, I mean, that's a ticket to the retest right there. Like if it manages to go left shoulder head and then I forgot to retest, well, it's already started to make that right shoulder, so that's one thing. Well, no, I can't help but remember that it has been in the business of forgetting inverse right shoulders. Like remember here when it went sideways in the triangle and it went down and it was like, oh, it could make a what shoulder, and it didn't go. And I'm like, here we have the same thing. I'm like, could we do that again? I'm like, it's never been better for it to be able to produce this instead of just being able to produce this crappy little move. Because I mean, we've done this now. You know, this is what we are. You know, we are that crappy little move basically right now. But this is the move that everybody's going to be interested in. And I mean, it is a move that we haven't managed to do uh, very frequently, obviously. But it's a move that gets us right back to the POC as well. It's a move that gets us to the red zone. It's an interesting one. Now, let me talk about this one more time when we go like this. Is it not true that this movement here can be similar to this movement here? After all, in the sequence of moves, this is an upwards movement and this is an upwards movement, right? So could our first upwards movement be like this, and our second upwards movement be like that, and us still be part of one big happy S wave? Oh yeah, it could be. This could just be a way that it does this. And this is just a way that it amounts to getting back to that ridiculous middle point that it loves getting back to so much. So I think that you know, when we really look at the situation, and I'm like, well, it started here and it came down, and we've done this so far. If we do the same thing that we did here to get back to here, is it so off? No, it can. It's allowed. It's definitely allowed. And now the thing is we've already done half of it. You know how many components are required to make this happen? We got the sideways consolidation, the downward spike, the return back to the triangle, and then one more part that obviously could get erased miserably. But when we do that, would it look like just coming back from the red zone to the green zone? And it would look like the retest of the next red yellow line. I'm interested in those kind of movements to the end of the day. Very interested. Something to look for, that's for sure. And it means it's just going to want to end up right back in the middle. And I mean, is that so bad? I think it is pretty appropriate. But it ends on an uptrend as well. Ends on an uptrend. Ends in the middle on an uptrend. Because that's what happens when we do this. The biggest part of the entire move is a downwards move, but it ends on an uptrend. And like that's the undeniable part, is that it meets its equilibrium, and the last thing that it has is an uptrend. So sure, it's the next trend to break with significance, but at the end of the day, just thinking about something there. Now, is this not the most dangerous point for a consolidation or reversal point in the series of uh, patterns that we've made here? And how are we not at that point that presents danger? It's either it explodes up, it goes sideways, or it goes down from this point. We have to be careful with that, because if it provides three other examples or two other examples in the past where it is controversial, where the pattern can do something else, we have to make sure that it's safe by now. Now, of course, we're going for it to make the big juice, where orders can already be placed at all of the B points on the way up. There's something really important I thought of, and I had to say with the S wave that I haven't said before, ironically. And I want to try and remember what that was. Oh, yeah. So, you know what's funny about this pattern? Is that why is it bullish when I place a consolidation here? Is it not true that it went sideways up then down? Then we're going to be left with a trend that always comes from the high. That will always offer a break in the opposite direction of the trend that it exists. Unless we're going to hold it forever, right? You know, or they're going to break like every trend last Thursday, like every trend last November, last December. They're all broken, right? So we managed to break them all in time. And especially the day by day trends that are steep, like there's a certain steepness where it becomes statistically probable that the longevity is limited, like that its lifespan is limited basically. And it becomes more of a extreme expectation to assume that it's going to be able to exist for long. And some trends that aren't so steep can exist for longer, basically. The trends that are steep are subject to being broken because it has less time with them. Like it's in a situation where it's like it better move with the trend or else it has to break it. And I mean, like this one. I mean, what? How much can we respond? I mean, we've got a little bit of time in here, but we responded negatively to the downtrend, and that's not incredibly uncommon after all. But it really identifies it.
This one still hasn't gone past it.
On the 15-minute, or
No, 15-second. It just on the other side. It just hit the top and just came back down. It hasn't gone past it. It needs to go past it so we can change this up.
well, you want to know what's interesting is the next time that we get to that red line, I think it'll have to go through the red yellow line. So like next time that we're at the red yellow line, I don't think it's going
That's
to
probably
be
when it's going to go through.
exactly, because the next time that it gets to the red yellow line, it's also not going to be at the red line on the RSI. It's not going to be overextended again, I don't think. So it'll be easier to break the red yellow line in theory. And I'm like, well, we've been using this inside pitchfork, and I'm about ready for it to be done. I'm like, well, hold on. How much time do we spend when we're doing anything that's associated with it? I would say we're coming up on the appropriate endpoint. And like, part of me thinks that there's just a triangle that comes from in here, and that there's a different part to this. On a second, there is a different part to this. If I take this and move it that way, see it's actually expanding until it starts contracting, which is a fact. And I'm like, okay, well, we can either accept it or neglect it. Kind of. If that is something that it is capable of doing, could it be doing it where we're trading now? Not particularly the same way, that's for sure. It's worth taking a look because it only takes a couple seconds. Now everything's been made completely even around the gold bar, which I mean is normal for it, but everything is also made clear that everything is wicks and spikes beneath the gold bar, and it's potentially going to stay that way. Looks like we're touching the 15-second green line there. Might be interested in touching the B points that it's left on the short term. Really small, but that's okay. There we go. There's some volume right to that B point. And it should continue through it to get some other B points at the other side, but we've got the gold bar as well to consider. Now, but notice this movement again where we had this movement here, right? And it's small to leave the consolidation, comes all the way back, then went all the way through again, and it managed to make a consolidation on the other side this time. It's so interesting to me to see that the volume that they have down here is so limited. They're just sellers, like just people getting stopped out, and they're drying up the amount of sellers that there are. The amount of volume that there is at this new extreme is that could mean that people are trying less, which is a good thing, contrary to popular belief. I want them to try less because they won't be in the way. Anytime that they try to get it going with like a decent run, everybody just starts taking profit, start seeing any kind of money. So best to get them out of the way if you want to be able to move it with clear skies. Because if you know you get 100 people piling up right here with sell orders, that means you have to buy every single one of their contracts until you see this level. Because every single one of those needs to be sold in order to get to here. So if they're long and their stop is here, and you want more position anyways, why not stop them out and then run through their position without them? You accumulate more anyways at a better price than they already had, and then you go through their target and they're not there to sell, so nothing's holding you back. Except for the chasers. Then you have to deal with the chasers. And then you look like in an environment where it's managed to chop and spike people out, and then people start chasing roughly on top of the spike, then we have to come back and get everybody out again that's chased it, and all that's left are the people from the chop at the bottom. And the chasers can get retested out of their position. So basically anybody that tries to buy above the blue line is subject to getting absolutely wiped out on the retest. And a lot of people, it's easier common culture in trading for people to be able to just end their day, not take any risk for holding through the weekend and so on and so forth. But I know the institutions can't stop playing the game until the very end. They're going to make it difficult for the public to be in for the best trade. And if you want to make it truly easy, then going through some difficulty may be required in order to get a position that you actually want, one from the extreme, one that might be tough for most people. But the red yellow line still exists and it offers hundreds of points on the other side for those that are exposed to its break. And that's the second one, because the first one can lead to the second one, but until we break that second one, we're in a downtrend undeniably. So it's all about being exposed for the end of that downtrend that can really get us going. And as I said, anybody that buys above this level is late. So it's only going to respect the people that found value when it was tough.
Skip along the bottom.
Yep. And you
The
notice that,
RSI on the 15 seconds still kept going up, but the price went sideways.
and notice that it didn't make the spike out of the bottom. Like it didn't come to get everybody. But at the end of the day, this is
Didn't
exact.
that spike on the bottom? I didn't get the bottom because I went by the bid again and it didn't fill me.
That's fine. That's fine. As long as your stop's at the
Sideways.
bottom, then you're good to go.
Yep.
And this is how the institutions make their positions, because clearly there was incredible value in finding that low right there, and incredible value in being part of it. And there was incredible value in being in before the break of the yellow line, because this is all the exciting bit. You can count on the fact that the people are piling in right now, and that they're going to be dealt with, most likely. A lot of them could be eliminated already, so I'm like, we're really trying very, very hard to make sure that nobody's in on this move. You can see that every single time. How many lows has it made? At a quick glance, does anybody know? Not without counting them, right? Because there's too many. You have to sit there and count them because it's not obvious because there's so many. Exactly.
11 low zone.
Yeah, may as well be.
Yeah, no matter how many lows there are, it's always the 11 low zone.
You know, if you can't look at it immediately and tell me how many lows there are, like, and you have to sit there and count them, you're breaking the rules if you're counting them. And I'm like, if you can't tell me instantly, then there's a lot. It means that there's just simply a lot. And I'm pretty general with that as well, but it is a multi-low zone that came to an end with a bang, and it was because they accumulated right below that gold bar, just like we have it, and then they came back to do the retest. This isn't even half the retest yet, I don't think, but I don't think that many people are in the way anymore because it got really tough for them. It pulled back yet again for like, the millionth time, and a lot of people just assume it's not working, but clearly somebody's trying to accumulate for the end of the day to be able to be in for the weekend. Because if they run it and run it and run it through the weekend, a lot of the people will come in on Monday when it's already high, and they'll try and short it. It'll be a squeeze day, all day run up day. Nobody will feel comfortable buying because it'll already be up. That's what I expect.
Any interesting calls Monday morning?
What's that?
Are there any interesting calls Monday morning?
Oh, the earnings. Well, the earnings. No, not on Monday morning that I know of, unless I'm crazy. But I looked and I saw only after hours.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know.
I got it up here too. Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of ET. MET. Everything's PM. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's all after hours, and that's normal. I mean, like today on Friday, we don't really get many earnings either, and that's normal. I love how like they range the blue bar, like it is literally being used, and like they're trying to keep that. They're trying to take that full control. Like they didn't want everybody in for that move, and they just found a way to like thread the needle, like just while everyone's looking out the window, chopping really slow. It went sideways for like 15 minutes, and then boom, all of a sudden, no spike, just out of a consolidation, and we're up, hitting B points, back at the range. Now, every single person that was trying to buy inside below the green zone, they all literally were just bought out right there. And every single person that struggled and been stopped out and so on and so forth, part of the accumulation now. That's the way I see it. And the people that moved the market right then and there just bought everybody out. Because if you're a seller and you're below this area, you're either out of your position because you've been stopped out or you're at a loss. And that's brutal because these people at the end of the day found value in the red yellow line break, in the B points that we're at right now. So it's like They found value where everyone else was struggling, and I told you they were all drying up. Not many more people to squeeze out anymore if nobody's becoming a seller, if nobody's trying to go long anymore. Because when we made that new low, no volume came with it. That means that when they came back to stop everyone out, nobody was there.
Managed to cash that low finally, goodness me.
Beautiful.
Well, not quite a low, but I got to stop at the low. So
Nice.
below the gold bar.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it too. Because just to uh, go over that, like the position that you have can be protected by taking off some profit along the way, but when you put your stop at the extreme, you're just as exposed as anyone else that caught the extreme, because where's their stop? It's at the same point as yours. So it's like, well, you have their position essentially. It might not be moving your account the same way, but you are exposed exactly in the same way, and you can handle the same moves that they can. So it's 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 interesting because it's a human thing for when people get into trading to literally fixate on the profit and loss, because and it's like it's very interesting to me. I just see so many problems with it, and so many things that once you find things that actually make a difference in terms of finding a technical level and understanding it, and then you find that it's like, oh my goodness, you can actually position yourself for it. But when it's just the profit and loss, it's a real emotional roller coaster. Even when you're doing really well, you see the profit and loss, it's like you can't bear it to see it go away, so you're just like, I'll just be done with it. And then the quickest thing that you can think of is like, screw it, but it's like, F it, and that means you've lost all control as soon as you say F it. And it's like, we can't be doing that. So it's good to make sure we're
Points that come up, I don't even bother with the
yeah,
profit
yeah,
and loss
yeah,
because
exactly.
I just want to be right.
Yep,
You know?
exactly. And it gets to your head if you look at the money of it. Stressful.
That's your. Well,
Yeah.
geez, I've already made a few thousand.
It's
I'll
easy
stop
to
now.
stop. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I've taken it off, and then you check on days after you've taken it off and you've continued to trade, and you're blown away with how much your work is actually worth, you know? And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I just like to be positive on the day and just make good trades and bring up my percentage. You know,
Yeah, the amount
and
of times I tried to
just
cash
be
that
steady.
low. Yeah, just saying the amount of times I tried to cash that low and had a few L's today, but I'm glad I kept up. Glad I kept up with it.
Yeah, and the more you can communicate, the better. Because I can give you feedback and input and so on like that. And like, the first group that I had, I literally they would talk a lot and ask about every single trade, and I told them no like 70% of the time. So don't be afraid for me to tell you no, because it's avoiding danger. It's like, let's say for instance, if it was physical danger, you'd be mad if I didn't tell you no. You'd be like, what the hell, man? You knew I was going to fall into this pit of spikes and you didn't tell me? Like, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
Never
like,
does it.
but in a financial thing, it gets to your head, and it's like, oh, I don't want to say anything. God forbid anyone thinks that I'm going to fall into the pit of spikes. I don't want anyone to know. I'm like, geez, it's like physically, it's completely different.
Yeah. Like, are we just looking for a long here? Or are we looking for a short?
Exactly,
Or are we sitting on our hands?
exactly. Yeah, and being
That's
neutral. Yeah,
three moves.
yep. Yeah, and that can be a lot of the time. Sometimes there's more of that than others, because the market can get really coiled up in these tight ranges, especially when it's in the business of making triangles. When every move gets smaller until it ends, that's offering less and less for the people that find value in it until it's over. I mean, that's terrible. I mean, if you really think about it.
What do you think the next move is now then?
Well, now we're approaching the middle area. So basically, we've come back to test the green zone in every regard. Basically, come back to test the medium point. I'd like to see a negative response to the red yellow line. If we do that, it could look like stepping on top of the green zone. We could actually put some fibs on this W right here, and having a negative response, maybe even to the 161. Okay, okay, okay. Here's one for you. Here's one for you. Let's say, pull up another chart here. Let's say that this area right here is our beginning point, and we went down this much. Can we go up that much? Wow, there's already a range here on Oanda. You know how old that range is? It's gonna be Years old. Years old it is on that. So I like how it even used the gap. You know there used to be a gap there? Now there's like a huge gap there.
Question, John. Do you think it's worth holding through the weekend then? Do you think? Because I said didn't know that I didn't want to pass the account too quick.
Yeah. Like you want to like well you have multiple accounts on that, so you can definitely hold on one of them.
True.
The
And
most you can hold is 3 MNQ.
well, on a
Oh,
practice or on a non-funded account, you can hold it. You could hold 100 NQs if you want, if they let you.
Five on this one. I got 5 now. 5 contracts on this one.
Okay, so
Because
you
on
c-
my
yeah.
PA account, I can only hold 3.
Yeah. When you're doing a challenge though, you can hold as much as you want.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
You didn't know that? Yeah.
no, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, you can hold it. You can hold NQs as much as you want. Yeah, as long as the account allows you to buy that much, then you can hold that much. Not that you should ever do that, but that's the.
Might be worth taking it at the profit target then I guess at the trend, I guess, possibly.
Well, no, I mean you wouldn't want to max it out and hold it, is what I mean. But I'd like the idea if it did run up, you've got some to sell. So like if we come up to this red zone and basically hit that B point at 1227, that that's gonna look like a big chunk of volume that we're running into there, and I do like that. And it's pretty much where we started. I like the idea of ending it right where we started, to be honest. Like the daily candle to just look like a doji, like a spike on the top and a spike on the bottom with a flat hash mark in the middle. We could see that. Actually, it's not going to look like that here. Wow. Okay. So this range comes back from yeah, years ago. Can't believe how precise it's choosing to. Comes back from March 2022.
After today, John, where would you say the next target would be?
I'm thinking higher. Um,
After the weekend, should I say?
I would say on this chart, like my idea is we're going to start to work through this middle medium bar. We had another negative response to it. I mean, that's what it does. It's so good at that. So good at making it even. You know what it did today is it chose to make this move right here, and it did that. It made that move and had a negative response, and it cleaned out a lot of people from that consolidation. But it reminds me of another one of those moves where we just clean everyone out and we can actually run through it and get to that level. Kind of like exactly what it did here before it reversed. Like think about how it treated the people. It was like, oh, I make a high and then I make another high and then I'm just going to screw everyone really quickly and then dump. I'm like, well, same kind of movement in reverse. Not too hard to find there. Definitely, oops, not this chart, but I also like the idea that on this chart, let me daily, we've come back down to test this triangle's high, so that's pretty significant. We're right in the middle. Everything that we've managed to do inside of this major gap has been a spike back to it. But yeah, see the daily does look like that. I don't know why Pepperstone. Yeah, the day started. Actually, no, the day doesn't start at 9:30 on these. That's why it doesn't look. But QQQ, it's gonna look like a hash mark, I think, just like a plus sign. Sorry, I don't want to see. By the end of the day, it ends up right back where it started. And this is weird because I think the candle is like inverted in color or something because it's going down on the candle. It should be red. 'Cause it started here. Uh, but yeah, that's correct. But whatever, we'll see.
John, can I ask a quick question, man?
Yeah, what's up?
So basically, let's say I hold this for the weekend. You think piece with me putting my stop in profit for the weekend, or just keep it at the low?
Yeah. So what you could do is you could put like 3 of them in profit and then 2 of them at the low.
How do you do that exactly? I didn't know you could do that.
Oh yeah. So if you wanted to ever just put a stop in there that's not related to the position or anything like that, you would just change it to none. So like your strategy to none, and then you can right click on the chart and put like buy stop one or sell stop one, limit instead of market preferably, because after hours, if it does make a huge move and you put a market order in there, it could be like 20 points off the, if it made like a 200-point candle or something like that, they could fill you like 20 points off the order if it's just a market fill. Like you never know after hours if it makes a huge movement. So it's good to make sure it's a limit order so that you specify a specific price and they give that to you, and it's not subject to the spread. But in this case, this is a very interesting chart that we've managed to make it back to that 100% there, which is basically the giant point.
Any chance
Okay.
you could show me like a screenshot on how to do that, John? Never really done something like that with NinjaTrader before.
Uh, yeah. I can show you. Okay. So you can. How I would screenshot it. So the ATM strategy should be set to none, and send you.
Okay.
And then when you right click on the chart itself, you see sell stop market one or sell stop limit one. And wherever you click is where the stop will be placed, just so you know. So don't just click anywhere. Click where you want to actually have the stop. And when you click to have the stop, you can actually move it around after too. But that's basically it.
I can only do sell stop limit 5. That's all I can do right now.
Oh, because your quantity is set to 5. So
Yeah,
you could
yeah, yeah.
you can change the quantity to 1, and then
Okay.
you could put 5 individual 1 limit order stops if you wanted to. Or you could put 3 in one and 2 in the other. You should just be able to change the 5 to a 1 once you've set it as well.
Will that won't interfere with this position then? No.
Well, not if you click at the low, and like if you were to click at the current price, it would get filled like instantly. So you have to be careful. Like if you put the stop in, like if you right click here, like it'll put the stop right there. If you right click down here, it'll put the stop right there. So if you put it far enough away, it shouldn't interact with your position right away.
Okay.
Hello, Legatus. I wanted to ask, do you know any platform for iOS, like Mac, to have a demo account?
Um, yeah, actually, for Mac, probably CMC Markets.
All right, I will check it out. Thanks so much.
Yeah, they're also mobile as well. And like I mean, that's okay for demo trading for now. And they have all different kinds of markets and stuff there too. I don't know if NinjaTrader's on Mac or not. I don't know at all actually. It is.
No, the Ninja Trader Super tried to show me, but it doesn't work, sadly. Do you have a weekly goal? How much you want to make or something in the market? Or is it the
Well,
option?
it depends on what the market's willing to give. Like some days there are more moves than others, but we don't get to pick and choose how much the market is going to be able to give us. If it if it makes a choppy day, like it's not going to produce as many opportunities as other days where it moves a lot around and everything. And today, there's a fair amount of opportunities today, and it as much as it does go sideways, I do find that it makes really attractive moves pretty regularly, and it can be pretty lucrative. Wow, so I can see it is interested in that yellow again, which is distinctively a support now. But I'll be right back.
Hey guys, how long have you been trading?
For a couple of years. On November 10th, actually, we're taking the summers off.
Myself, just around a year, I think. Just around a year. Still learning.
Crazy. So you started trading with Legatos or earlier before?
No, just here. For the first 6 months, all I did was watch John chart, and I copied his charting methods and understood all of his lines and colors and nodes and all that stuff. For 6 months, I didn't even have NinjaTrader. I was just trying to mirror what he does on the chart. That's all I did.
Exactly what I do too, man. Exactly. I've only been here for a month. I'm still just watching.
It's crazy. I just see colors and like I don't see anything. Fuck.
Yeah, I know. When I first got on, it was a complete friggin' utter jumbled mess until you until you know what's going on, right? Now it's crystal clear.
I love how this has come straight back to my entry. Just below the gold bar.
You need to chart and just do exactly what he does every single day. And it's just there's no shortcut to it. It's just time. And I never got a I never got a Lilo account for like a year and a half in, and then when I did, I got four of them right away, and I still have them. Got them in June or something like that. And John said to when you get the accounts when you're first starting to learn, just do MNQ for 6 months. So since July, I guess I've never put more than three MNQ on a trade. and I'm just trading for 6 months, trying to raise my percentages up higher than say 50 or 60%.
What is what did you say? What you put in?
I just go low size, 3 max. If we're just in a range, just 2 max, 2 MNQ. That's it.
What is MNQ?
Oh, it's just a smaller size that you can trade on the Nasdaq.
I had asked too. It's a specific amount of money
Yeah,
per trade.
yeah. Every time
Crazy.
a point moves, you know, it's $2. So
Wow, nice. And you guys, can you now live from it, or you still have your job?
oh, I've already got other income, so I'm not taking anything from anything that I trade for about a year or so.
Oh, nice, nice, man.
Because with Lilu, you can accumulate accounts and not have to pay tax on any of this accumulation until you take it out. And when you take it out, they'll tax you, but you can just accumulate as much as you want in Lilu, and they don't touch it.
I see, I see. Crazy. Yeah, I think it doesn't work in Germany. I'm from Europe, Germany.
Okay,
I
cool.
don't
Yeah.
think it works the same, but yeah.
Whereabouts in Germany you live?
Berlin. How about you guys?
Well, I'm in Canada, but I got relatives in around Frankfurt and up around Siegen.
Damn, if you're around, tell me.
Okay.
Do you guys also trade like Bitcoin or stocks, or just like the indicator, Nasdaq and
It's Nasdaq for the amount of movement it has. That's what I just you can learn from this Nasdaq and apply it to anything else. But just because of the movement every day, there's hundreds and hundreds of points involved. That it's really lucrative.
Ah, okay, I see. Thank you. Okay, crazy.
I I did. I've been doing like old-fashioned trading for a long time, and I this is the first time I've ever really tried to dive in and look at it on a day-to-day basis and make money on a daily. Because I always you make get a portfolio built with value stocks and growth stocks to gain a percentage at the end of the year is the goal. And so that's how I've done it. But now I'm learning this.
Yeah, it's just tested that medium level again. Looks like it's getting some movement now. It's changed the hour.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm sweating there. Stops at the low.
Hmm.
Goodness me. Posted a GIF inside the Legacy exclusive. That was me.
Oh yeah.
You still have a bundle, though, don't you matter what?
Yeah, I'm on the bundle. I'll spend like $20, so even if I don't do it this time, it's not a huge deal, I wouldn't think. Nice though. I mean, I do have like a bunch of accounts that I could try it on still. So yeah.
Well, the way I qualify for Lilu is not the way I trade here. So you have to have a different sort of strategy when you're on Lilu. Just to get your PA accounts, kind of super simple, especially when you have a bundle and you have like 5 tries. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
they'll
for sure.
allow you to go to the max at like, I don't know, 6 MQ or something like that. So you trade those differently. But as soon as you get to your PA accounts, you know, you dial it back to MNQ, no more than
Yeah,
3.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm just on MNQ right now, so say, John, that they're trying to race it to try and get everyone out, right? All the chasers.
Yep, yeah, exactly. It's something that they did here as well. Similar kind of move. The one thing that I find that's interesting about this one in particular is that the highs are expanding upwards, but we're not really getting that same kind of treatment anymore. Downside. Been going up.
Guess that could change soon, I guess.
It could, yeah. The downtrend is the biggest consideration right now in the short term. This one can be adjusted.
Would you say that low's completely safe then, pretty much?
Never, never completely safe.
Never guarantee.
Yeah.
Let's just say 99.9%.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you have to think of it from a perspective of this entire trend of how much, since it even stopped moving down, has it offered entirely new lows. And for anybody that's found value in being exposed to the break of either one of those trends from the green zone, it's been absolute like new lows every single time anything has amounted to happen. So if anyone is to ever catch it, the only way is to persist with it and making it safe to do so. Like when you do the three trade trifecta, for instance, like it allows you to take some off initially, so that you're safe to continue holding the other two. The next portion gets off at the target, which could be like a significant questionable barrier, and then the it's that last portion. So like this is the portion of the trade that 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 really ends up running, and it's like it's just one equal portion. And it's not the entire thing, but because you've taken two off, two portions of your position off, you're able to hold it.
Send you a picture there, John. Is that about right now then, or?
Let's have a look here. Yeah.
So if my
Wait. Hold on. Okay. No. So that one's got you've got so the one that says 5 sell stop. That'll sell your whole position when that
right,
is
so get rid of that straight away then. Okay, get rid of that.
yeah, and you can just make another one that says 2, and then that's everything.
Oh, sorry, say that again.
So when you get rid of the one that says 5, you make one that says 2, and
Right, so I need to get rid of them straight away. Okay, right. Okay.
so the 3 is good, but that'll only sell 3 of them, so you need another 2. So the same way that you made the 3 sell stop, you make the
Make
make
one
the
that says 2 as well.
exactly.
Okay, cool. In the same position, roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You can move the second or the 3 cell stop up, because it's good to make sure that when you have a position and you have the ability to take some off when it's a little bit higher, to have some off of the trade if you didn't have any off already. But I can't tell if you've already taken some off or not originally on that trade or whatnot. But
Not yet, no.
You can get rid of all that wording too on your Ninja Trader if you want to. And just have the arrows there.
How do you get rid of that?
I can't remember. Maybe John does.
yeah, so you right click and then you should be able to go to data series at the top and then scroll all the way to the bottom, and then it's plot executions markers only you want.
Got it?
Markers
Yep.
only.
Cheers, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I even have one where I've removed everything so I can just look at the echo volume, because sometimes like if you've made a few trades, same spot or in an area that's like congested or something like that, it's be a bit much to see what's going on.
Is that more like it, John? Just set you another one.
Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so that one, you've got it as a buy. You want to make it a sell. So it'll
I
it'll
didn't
it'll
realise that.
that that
That's definitely a big mistake.
yeah, that'll make it into 8 instead of.
So it should be sell 2, shouldn't it?
Yep. And then and limit
So
generally better.
2 sell limit. There we go. Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
But if you wanted to make a take profit order like higher, then you would go like you can also put limit orders in there too. If you just basically right click on a higher point and you go sell limit 1, that'll be like where you can take profit. But you have to be mindful that when one of those stops gets hit, it won't erase the other ones if you're just manually putting them in.
Right, okay.
Because you can have stop orders and then you can have take profit orders as well. So, and sometimes they're built into an ATM strategy, but the ATM strategy might only have one order for a take profit and one order for a uh, a a stop.
So with the sell 2, it'll sell 2 contracts and then keep the rest.
Yeah,
How it
exactly.
works.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So you have a little bit of profit.
Yeah, so like sometimes what you can do is you can have like sell 2 and then sell 3, and then basically when you have you could set, like if you wanted to, you could put like one sell order on every single one of the B points on the way up in the last trend, like in theory. You don't have to have 3 as your sell when you're taking profit. You can sell 1 at each time if you wanted to.
Cool.
Next thing that we have to understand here is the imbalance coming up. It's a time of the day that could increase some volatility there, and I am interested in it using the bar more. Like that was a pretty hefty move off the gold bar, but we've got a marker now. Imbalance. Now I can't help but notice that we went to the high of the blue bar, which is the controversial range that we're in. And yet again we've managed to leave the pitchfork. Like, well, it's still not quite out of the woods yet with that.
If you had made a video on NinjaTrader and how to put the stops in and whatnot, and the whole methodology and how you physically do it on it
Yeah, that could go a long
on the
way, yeah.
software, that could go huge.
Yeah,
That would be beautiful.
Sure.
Yeah, cause I keep mine pretty simple. Like
Yeah.
like I think like there's people that use it full time. Like I think like Super, like his setup's probably way better than mine, not gonna lie. For NinjaTrader, because he uses it for charting and uses it for everything. And he's got hotkeys set up and stuff like that. So that's one I don't have that I think would be valuable, and is
So I'm
using
using my
hotkeys.
mouse. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not using that mouse. I'm just using my mouse, but
hotkeys
I
are
just
a
think
lot
it
more
could be more
versatile.
efficient. Yeah. I just think I could be a lot more efficient though if I was to maybe learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like
Just
everybody, like that's one thing. It's like everybody's keyboard's different and everything like that as well. It's like it all depends. Like you might be using different buttons and different shift keys, different control keys, and it all depends. But setting it up, like I can make a video on how to do it the way that I have it, which is pretty basic, and it's all that you need.
just your ATM strategies,
Yeah.
ATM strategies say when the ATR is at say 10 or lower, and when it's at 20 or whatever. And because I got a few ATM strategies here, but um, yeah, that would be helpful. Just in filling it all out, I guess.
Yeah.
You think we might let's have another blast stage on, or
Shortly. I think that there's about maybe about 15 minutes before it starts to become really aware of the imbalance. Like the medium bar is something that I think we're ending the relationship with it. Uh, start to try and get away from. So, and as well as this, I'm starting to wonder if we're gonna like get involved with maybe not one so steep, but something like this again.
by the way, another quick question, John, if that's all right.
Huh?
You know how I have my 2 contracts self-stop at the bottom there?
Right.
What will happen to the other 3 contracts then? Will that just continue on, or?
Well, you can put them at like for instance, you can spread them out so that one of them's at the low, and the other one, like you could even take it up the stairs if you wanted to. Like it depends on uh on how tight you want to keep it. Like if it's important, like if you're letting some run, like if you have 5 usually like from the very bottom, and it manages to lift off and break the trend and get to like the high of the node, you definitely want to like piece off like a decent portion of that position, at least 2, maybe even 3, and uh and that secures your ability to hold 2 or 3 from the bottom, so that it's not as risky and it's not as sweaty if it comes back on the rest of the position, because you've already like locked in some. But now it's like um it's pretty well back at the
Might be
61.
wise selling off 2 then, around the high there, or the second
Yeah,
continuation.
yeah, it could be. Yeah. The next time it runs into a significant barrier, it could be a nice thing just to secure the trade. Because it's like we're coming into a point where there is a time where it increases volatility, which I mean could totally help it get back into the middle. But you know, when it strays up back to the high of the range, it's looks like it's a 61 right now. That's what we're dealing with. We've just come to the 61 once, and then it's the second time that it's actually hit it. If it wants to hit it again, it'll have to get through the blue bar. Getting through the blue bar is kind of a big deal because every time we've managed to stray off of this yellow line, it's capable of moving like really far away, and it can be because of the yellow line. So like it's a very controversial level that has the capability of, you know, pausing major moves like that, or even beginning major pushes, so on. So
Send one more screenshot. I think that's about right now. I think that's perfect.
all right, let's take a go. Yeah, so with the two sell stop, that means that there's only two contracts that will sell. If it fell down like 1,000 points right now, you'd still have three. So
Right, okay, so I'll set the 3 up as well then. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And what's
Preferably 3 higher than 2 then, of course.
yeah, exactly. Yep, you can do that. This is probably one of the most controversial points of the day so far, right here. I think that this is going to be one of the most heated areas for the institutions because they're trying to find another window to push it through the right shoulder. They want people to short it right now so that they can stop them out. I can smell it. And that little sharp move that they made off the top is kind of trying to get people to chase it because they think they're missing a right shoulder play out. And everything trying to line up so that try and make the push back up to this B point up here because it is true that this is an untested B point here. Never really been tested ever. And the way that we've done this is very slow. And, you know, clearly all of what was fast was taken back, and now it's come with an approach after it's been difficult for anyone that was, you know, interested in it moving really fast. You know, the chasers now, you know, they may not be piling in on a move like this one, just like it wasn't attractive down here, right? But it just came from a previous difficulty. You know, anybody that was like trading this movement, it was like going for like one of the similar patterns that we really saw at the beginning of the day, where it kind of pushed this out of the bottom and it did the same thing out of the top, and we saw that earlier on a different chart.
I think I'm just going to go get a cup of tea, I think. Could be safe for now.
All right. the medium bar again. New trend. Strange way it's like it's done this.
What a 261% retracement thing has been pretty relevant today.
The 261.
No, the 61.
Yeah, yeah. No, it just made another one, and it looks like it's almost added again. 61 to 61 almost here. Just hit a 61 to the support. Crazy how much the volume ends at this point. Like a shelf. I like this idea of ending the trend on a 61 pullback. Did you know that we did more than a 61 of this last pullback here? Like when it came back to the tip of this triangle, this is like 74 or 78. Managed to go right through the 61. This little pullback right here, didn't even care about it. Like I guess it came to test it from the other side. That's not holding. That's a good change.
Feeling to a bigger W here.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too. So we've effectively left this bottom range. It'd be something to get on top of this red one though, the red line there, because that was the original placement that we had that this consolidation, and we can see that we've turned it into a support now. It's really good. Now we have to watch out for little B points like this one getting hit. Just like quick snaps off the green zone are allowed to hit that. It can hit it more than basically no stops. That.
big old candle.
Yeah, back to the medium bar here, it looks like. Left a couple smaller points as well. That one in there is already. Could get like a little fourth wave kind of move. Like the fourth wave there, yeah. Same size as the second out.
Talk about a test of integrity, right? Jeez. You guys still got your stops at the low there still, I'm guessing?
That's the best place for it. Essentially,
Yeah, sure.
did you manage any off when we were at the high of the range there?
Not quite, no, because I left it up at the high there. I left it up at the high, didn't quite hit my I should have lowered it a little bit, but I didn't.
No worries.
Should be fine still, I think.
Yeah, looks like it. This is the same length as the first wave.
Stop just got hit. That sucks.
Yeah, the one at the extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing is, when you manage to get, like, when I say the 3-trade trifecta, you manage to get one off initially to pay for the fact that you can hold to the profit target. You get to the profit target, or well, when we're in a range, when you get from one side to the next, it's like the other side presents a risk that will come back to the side that you left, basically. So having another one off there, and then basically that leaves you with 1 out of 3. You know, so 1 out of 3 is allowed to be held for the continuation because you've been paid on 2. So the last one doesn't suck as much when it comes back down to get you, because you can try again relatively easy using the profit that you made on the first 2 contracts off. There's no reason to be out. That's the brutal part. I think that it's all just part of an accumulation that leads to the break of the red yellow line by the end of it all.
Off at 261 there, H1?
Very, very likely.
To that B point up there?
To the one that I've got marked.
Yep.
This one here. 61.
Just working off the 261 plus the fact that, you know, the RSIs were down, but the volume, there was no volume past that point.
No, exactly. Becomes the imbalances like one of the major focal points of the moment right now. And the one thing about this consolidation is every single B point that's ever been formed inside of it has been hit. This one, the trend is still intact, so on the break of the trend, the B points it forms can be still using the yellow bar though, which doesn't end here. And when you get down to it, it's like when it makes this move 1, 2, 5, the first wave be similar to the fifth, and then create what looks like a 3-wave move after. Right now it's pretty deep for a second wave. Has a new trend as a next. So like if anybody is in for the break of the downtrend ever, and there are B points that are contained within that downtrend, when you put your orders at those, at the profit targets, this is a profit target. Just like a moment ago when we got to this profit target, that was the exact point that it went to, and it may not get any higher than the profit target. Like I do believe it will ultimately, but making it safe to continue hold. That's why there's the ignition candle profit target, and then the profit target, and then the next is the continuation for the exposure beyond the profit target to the break of the entire trend and to the continuation into the next week. And if you start with 3, like so you begin with 3 because it's the lowest risk possible, and you work with taking 2 off and letting 1 run, and if that's all that you can, you haven't built up a cushion yet, so you can't afford to take more than 3. So at the end of the day, you take 3, you build up the cushion with 2, you can afford to hold 1, and then you move that 1 to the profit target. Long term, you can sell that or hedge it depending on the situation, but or you can secure it with a stop and profit and remain exposed. But in the event that you lose that position, you have the first 2 contracts that you've sold at a profit. The last one has a profitable stop as well, or you take profit manually on it. And the more that you do that, regardless of if you've taken profit and the last one comes all the way down and gets stopped out, you're still left with this and a little bit of this. So, and that adds up. If you take this, this, and this, and you've done that 5 or 6 times, you don't have to take 3 anymore. Then you can take 6. It depends on in the environment. You might not find an appropriate area to take 6, so you might still be taking 3 anyways. So it's like that's how you justify basically sizing and being able to build a cushion to use the justified amount, because each contract that you take has a specific goal of getting to a specific target. It's like I can explain why each order that you place has to be on a specific target level, because there's a reason that it's a target, like a green dashed line. And getting to that target allows for enough profit to be taken for the people that are exposed to the trend break, be able to continue holding for the red yellow line, but not the whole position. It's like the let it run part of the position is at maximum a third, because the third's taken off on the ignition candle, the third's taken off on the profit target, and then the maximum of the third is let to run, and then you can piece that into 3 parts if you can itself, if you want to. It's just it's a minimal position, part of the position in comparison to the original state, though. 35% of the position allowed to run. The imbalance is 1 minute away, and this is like totally considered ignition candle territory. Anybody that got exposure to the break of the trend, it would be expected that you took 3, you take 1 of them off. If you took 6, you would take 2 of them off. It means that if the other 2 come back to 0, that means that you're left with essentially $50. If you took 6, you take 2 off, you've got $50. If the other ones are worth nothing, or if the other ones are worth $5, doesn't matter. But it secures your ability to continue holding to the profit target and beyond the profit target. That's the process. And imbalance is pretty slow. Testing it from the other side, the medium bar. One of the last consolidations. You can see that if that pullback made it all the way back to nothing, you would have taken one off, so you're good to go. And now you've got another one to take off right here. And the rest, it's like it can become worthless. You've been paid by this point. And it's dead to me, you know? And now it's like, under no circumstances is that last contract, or that last portion, allowed to go have a stop above this point. You can look at that level as something that could be hit in the future. It doesn't have to, but it can be. So that means it can cost you your position if you drag your stop above it. Hedged, but I think. Any hedges that did target it though. Point. I admire the 61% retracement of the entire dump. I think I expect us to break before the close, to be honest. Because getting to that high of the node is like above the 61. We're at the POC right now. Now we push through the 61, clear as day. Testing it from the other side is pretty normal. Put it back on there. POC is the 50.
Managed to get back in on another account, luckily.
Right on.
That's good. Yeah, managed to take some off as well.
Nice, nice, nice.
It's all about learning into. I mean, I took an L on that one, but on the other one, but it's fine, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Not losing anything.
Yeah, like I think the key takeaways would be from that one is that you know you had the opportunity to take some off when it came back up again, but I see when I saw your order, I thought that you put your order at the B point on the thing. That's why I asked if you managed some off.
Not quite.
But I couldn't see where it was. It was just up in the sky there, so I figured you put it on that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think just let it rip now, right? Let it rip.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like it's like
for the weekend.
when you've done enough of these ranges, you don't even remember how many, like what this trade was to go for that move, or this trade to go for that one, or this one, because they all will kind of merge into it. And it's about like, now we're closer to the red yellow line. Now we've chopped this much more. We've built up this much momentum. It's been this, many lows, and just because it's getting more difficult for the people associated with it doesn't mean it's not getting better, which is ironic, because as it could seem like it's becoming difficult, it doesn't mean it's not going to end just because it's difficult. The more difficult it is, the more potentially it has on the other side of the difficulty in store for those that went through. What's up?
Do you think it's worth keeping that sub at the low, or do you think just where
Yeah, again, repeat the process every single time. So it has to make literally a new low every single time to get you out. And I'm like, yeah, it's tough that way because you're hard to get out. You're not going to get wiped out on a 95% retracement, a 61% retracement, a 78% retracement, a 50% retracement. It has to go to an entirely new low. And I mean, like that's like every time if you position it so you've taken off, like let's say you took 5 and you took 3 of them off. Now that too is really going to be profitable with a stop at the low. You've taken off more than enough profit than you can lose by it coming down to the very low on that last 2. So you've earned the ability to hold from the extreme, and it's like as you repeat this process, that 2 can grow into a bigger one. Like let's say for instance you managed to take 3 off and it was a profit. You can use that so that the next time you can actually get more. Because one thing, it's true that the next time if it is at a new low, it's going to be even lower, which means that all the targets are even farther, which means if there's even more targets, then you can justify even getting even more contracts as well. And if you've got even more profit to justify it with, then it becomes more reason to continue persisting with exposure to the downtrend. And although it's difficult, and I can't even tell you how many lows it's made, and we've been looking at the same red yellow line the whole day. And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of space between here and the red yellow line. Now I'm like, hey, dude, there's no space between now and the red yellow line. There's no time left either, which is interesting that it comes down to the end of the day for the break of this trend, where it's like literally you have to really want to be exposed to that trend line by this point. That's the interesting part about it. And it's very hard for people to just be luckily exposed to it. You know what I mean? So the market ensures this, and they kind of gotta. It's an easy way to give it up for the weekend, and you gotta really wanna be in for the exposure for the reversal in the long term to hold it through the weekend. And it's nice to be able to actively manage it while it is moving throughout the weekend, like on Sundays and stuff like that. So it's it's going to be interesting. I think this Sunday, this weekend could be the low for all of the earnings that are coming before, or sorry, that are coming in the next week. And basically, this is like the spike on the bottom where every single retracement will come back to the highs that we've made here, and everything below where it was difficult in this choppy area before the blasty bit, before the break of the red yellow line. Those are the people that will be safe, and the people that won't be, and I mean safe by a thread too. You have to expect it to be difficult, because when it's not difficult, then you know you expected it to be hard, and it's like then it's made easy, and I'm like, oh well, you just think that's nice, but anytime that it's difficult, you're always ready because you've expected it. And that's the way that I am. I'm always expecting it to be ready. I'm always cynical that it's not going to be the move that I'm in, because I'm going to have to try the next time, and I know it. But it doesn't matter because I will try the next time, and I'll make it profitable to keep a stop at the low. So it has to make a new extreme to get me out. And depending on how easy it makes to get that short-term target. But when you have a short-term target and you can expose yourself to a trend break, and then take off enough at a target, make it safe first, and then take off enough at a target, and then you can hold the rest. It's like depending on how many times you've done that well earlier determines on how much you can really hold for the big move that we're all seeing right now. And it's like this is all part of the plan. It's not like I'm not like lucky to get away with this. So not for 2 seconds. I worked hard for this. So that's the way. So this is the end of the volume node. Watch out for it to come back to test the red-yellow line. It can do that at any given moment. And that's like a new B point, which insinuates we could get all the way up to the red zone. You know, like that's a red zone all the way up there. And claiming this is a green zone, we've got a hell of a node under it. And we want to come back and play ball on this green zone later and use it as a support. Good luck getting through it, right? Because we've spent a lot of time, a lot of accumulation in that area. So I think we want to make that 60, make that what is it, POC into the 61. Like the high of this node, the B point, I think we want to make the 61 in this area here. Like, so we're gonna go, yeah, okay. So if we went up to the 120, if we went up to the 200, the 61 would start to be coming here. But they're making it slow right now because they want everyone to sell most of their position off. And after it being so difficult, you know, you can assume that people are, you know, they're given the chance to have a lucky break, give them a nice big push and then pause it for a second. Most of them will be out of most of their positions. And then it continues going and going and going. Some people will even turn around and short it, and they become fuel for the range. Just remember where they're shorting it. People think that it's high right now. They're becoming sellers in the green zone. There's not a place for sellers, and you know this consolidation might make you think otherwise, because like everything inside of the consolidation that we've been part of right now has come down off that green zone, and it's exactly the opposite of what it's meant to do by the end of it all, which is go way above this entire level. And I'm like, wow, you know, it's funny how they can make a big move out of that range down there, make people think that the green zone is literally a place to sell. I mean, like that's something. Because if you're in nothing and you shorted the green zone, wouldn't you feel like it is a danger? Like it's dangerous. Like, because this is a place that's supposed to lead to the red zone. It's notorious for it. You know, so well so. Remember the daily red zone and green zone? How many spikes and wicks did we put out the bottom of that daily green zone? I didn't readjust it. Still went to the red zone. and it was also a 188 200 up there too. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, deja vu. But this is the end of the day, and there wasn't even an earnings report for that, so it's quite an interesting way to end the week with a big push up into the green zone. Essentially, everybody was bought out of that range for the end of the day there, and hopefully you guys have a wonderful week, and I'll catch you guys later.
Sounds good, John. Take care, guys.
Yeah, take care. Have a good one.
Thank you, John.
Anytime. Take it easy.